Good day, everyone. This is Maurice from the AAA Model Railroad. As you can see here, I have an F unit. It appears to be an F7, and this is for a repair of what the client claims to be an issue with soldering some wires. And the client claimed that he tried to do some soldering, and he epically failed on that on that task. So he's looking for someone to actually to get this up and running for him. And here are some of the pieces which actually is part of the model. Here are the screws for the engine, because the engine was dismounted, and that's the drive shaft that belongs to the model as well. So it'll be interesting when I take this apart and see what the issue is. I believe this model is the Athearn model. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe this is an Athearn, one of those either ready to run or roundhouse models. I'm not 100% sure, but when I take it apart, I will know for sure by looking at the motor, see what motor is in there, and that will basically tell me. I looked at the trucks. The trucks look like an Athearn design, but we'll find out in a few minutes. Be right back. And yes, this is an Athearn model. This is a classic Athearn motor here, and I'm trying to figure out what the client have done, but yeah, this needs some work. Yeah, this might be a blue box model from what it looks like. But yeah, this is an NCE decoder right here. This is it right here. NCE decoder. What type of decoder is it? NCE is the D13J version C. Okay. All right. I'll work on this to see what's. Actually, I see the wire he's talking about here. This red wire here. I gotta find out exactly where this go. My presumption would be here, but yeah, I gotta look this up. Make sure that I wired this correctly, and put everything. I don't know why he took the engine apart. I guess he figured that taking the engine. I don't know. Well, actually, the wire. I guess the wire that's here. I don't know. I probably wouldn't take the engine apart to do that. But okay. All right. So let's get to work and see if we can get this thing running. All right. Everything is wired up and actually ready to go. Let me show you how it works. I got it hooked up to the lock programmer. As you can see, all these wires all over the place. And click on the lights. Lights come on. And the motor actually works. There you go. And the wire is not complicated at all. It was just one of the wires the client had difficulty with, but I just managed to put it, put in its proper place, which is this one right here, the one on the right that connects to the decoder here. That goes to basically track power, and voila. So now I just gotta tidy everything up and it should be good as new. Okay, we're here at Willis Hobbies. And a quick note, it's all basically set and ready to go. I had to do a hard reset on this decoder because for some reason um, the model basically took like 10 seconds for it to move in DCC mode. In in DC mode, it works fairly well. So I did a hard reset of which is CV30 on the NC decoder, and it actually works better. Still, it's a little bit on the slow side. Um, so let's just take a look. Very smooth operation for this NC decoder. Yeah, very smooth, very quiet for an old blue box Athearn locomotive. Well, that's it, people. Appears to be mission accomplished. I may have to still do a little bit of adjustments here and there. The customer is going to come by and pick up his locomotive. Again, here at Willis Hobbies. And thank you very much for watching. Peace. Later. As you see in front of you, this is actually a return that I have received lately on a model that I was working on before. And this is the F7 Santa Fe. And the client stated that there was some issues with the model. Now, man, having a deja vu actually. Sure, this is weird, but anyway, sometimes you feel like you've done stuff before. Makes you wonder if you're going in the right path, but here nor there. But anyway, looking at this, when I return the model to the user or to the client, the motor control was good and it ran very smoothly, but it ran very slow. And I thought, maybe it has something to do with the wiring again, or maybe something to do with the motor or something like that. But as I've learned with the GG1 I was working on, you're going to see a video on that too. Extensive video on that. What I'm learning is that a lot of times, or sometimes, it's not the electronics. I keep saying a lot of times. Sometimes it's not the electronics. Sometimes it could be something mechanical that's actually causing the issue. And it could be something with the drivetrain, the gearing. That's one thing you have to look at before you go into the electronics. Now, I have to admit the GG had more than one issue. There was an electronic issue or electric issue, and it was also, come to find out, I found out a little later on, it was also a mechanical issue. Now, this model is the same thing. First, it was an electrical problem, electronic problem. Now, I see that it's also a mechanical. Now, let's get to it. Why is it mechanical in this particular model? Well, as you can see, or you're going to see, move this grease out the way. All right. There's the door, there's the drive shaft right here. This is the drive shaft. Okay. And this goes to the front. This is the front of the engine, right? And it connects to this piece here. All right. Which is the it's a I don't know exactly what this piece is or what you would call it. Maybe I should look it up. That would be smart. But it sits on this shaft here. All right. And I'll point out to it. It sits on this shaft right here, and it goes into the drive shaft will go in here. And this shaft is actually the worm gear shaft. The worm gear is right in here. All right. Now, looking at it, I notice when the engine or the motor is running, this drive shaft is flapping up and down. It's going up and down really rapidly. It's going up and down. And at first, I didn't think it was a big deal, but it was working before. But I noticed that on this side, it has a different. As you can see, the drive shaft is connected to a different. I want to know what the name of this is. I just can't. I can't think right now. I apologize for that. And I know I may get in the comment section. Just let me know what that part is. I'll look it up myself. Just put it in the comment section if you feel free to do so. But this was different. This is actually a different design, and it's much more stable. And this the drive shaft doesn't flap in the wind, well, more or less. It doesn't flap up and down. It's very straight, very linear, and it fits in there nice and snug. The same thing has to go for this here. It has to fit nice and snug. Once I had taken those two parts out, the motor runs fine. As a matter of fact, it runs better than fine. And also, what a good telltale sign that the motor's binding up or something's binding the motor is that your controller will cut off, because there's a heavy load on the engine or the motor, and it'll overload whatever circuit that's on your controller, whether DCC or DC. The modern controllers, that is. I'll put in quotes, modern controllers. Or speed controls, whatever you may call them. It will cut out. So that's why I learned with the GG1. It cuts out when there's a heavy load that's too much for the controller. So yeah, I believe that's what's going on here, people. This is what's going on. So this got to be addressed. I'm going to attempt or try to see if I can find a similar part. When I go to work tomorrow, and I'll check and see if there's another part that I can actually use that would actually fit in there. It was the same part as this here. So let's see. We'll be back. Wrong. Yep, I made a mistake. Actually, I did discover one problem. One problem is with this. Okay. I still didn't look up what this part is. Here's the problem. All right, with these motors on this chassis, okay, these screws under here, they cannot be too tight. Now, what I did was I caught myself tightening the screws because the engine looked a little concocted. Actually, it does now. Again, it's a little concocted. And the perfectionist in me is like, all right, let me tighten the front screws. The two screws on the left. Right? Just a little bit. Tighten them up. And it'll even everything out. which it did. But doing so puts a lot of stress on the motor, believe it or not. They only supposed to be so tight. They're not supposed to be too tight, because I put this on the track and this thing did not want to move for shit. Excuse the language. This thing did not want to move, and yeah, that was a problem. And I was like getting frustrated. I said, okay, I just explain how what the problem could be, and it's still an issue, but that's not the cause of the motor binding up. Because once I tightened the screws and I went to move this after the motor didn't turn, this was incredibly stiff. It was turning the motor was very, very stiff. I said, wait a minute. I was like, don't tell me it has something to do with the screws. I should have videoed that, but I did not. The engine or the motor not working. But trust me, it didn't work. And now, hopefully this doesn't make me look stupid. But let's just try it. And voila, it works very easily. Very simple. Easy peasy. So that motor, the mounts, more or less, the motor mount, you can't have these motor mounts too tight, so I need Athearn, these type of brushed motors. And it's just not a good look. Yeah, it's just not. Yeah, it sucks. These cam motors are like, bleh. But they're not the greatest. Yeah, but I mean, once you get them running smoothly, that's all good. All right, so still I gotta address this here. I still gotta address this part of the axle, drive shaft. And that's it. Alright, so I'm going to still look for that part, and we'll be back with it installed. Alright, so what's the plan here? Well, I'm using this donor. That's a donor model here. It's one of my first models that I got when I got back into the hobby. And I didn't know better. So I'm going to actually replace the collar. All right, it's a female collar here. I'm going to replace this. It's the one that was on this model. It's not the right one. This is the collar that it needs. So I'm going to remove this and put it onto here. And that's it. So it basically requires just taking the motors off to actually do this. So let's get to it. Okay, everything's installed. I got that collar installed. And let's see what happens. Actually, I already know what happens, but hey, here nor there. All right, so turn on the power, and you will see a very smooth operating drive shaft. It's not flapping all over the place. This is the rear, and that's how it's supposed to run. I go full power, and Very smooth, very steady. Well, I would say that this is it, but no. I ran into another problem, and this is kind of my fault. Finagling with the box that it came in. It came in a wine box. The model came in the wine box, and because the client didn't have anything else to put it in, I accidentally dropped the model, and I damaged the rear of the shell. And I'm not too happy about it. So I'm going to try to fix it as much as I can. Put some glue it and tidy it, put some epoxy, sand it. But basically the model is complete. It's running beautifully. And I'll show it on the layout tomorrow. If I don't forget, because I keep forgetting this thing for some reason. But I'll show it running on the layout. So this should be quite good.